Today, we will review the URA Residential Claim for Moving and Related Expenses Form, HUD 40054, which is one of HUD's required documents for voluntary buyout or acquisition programs that have displaced tenants, therefore triggering the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Act, or URA, requirements. A hyperlink to HUD's URA Residential Claim for Moving and Related Expenses form can be found on the Texas General Land Office website at recovery.texas.gov. To locate the document, go to the local buyout and acquisition program page, which is linked below in the description section of this video. Scroll down to the right side checklist section and click on the URA Residential Claim for Moving and Related Expenses link. Once you click on the link, you will be directed to the document on HUD's website. Download the document. Please note you will need a PDF reader such as Adobe Acrobat to view and edit the document. This form is for the use of families and individuals applying for payment of residential moving and related expenses under the URA. Any displaced residential owner-occupant or tenant-occupant who qualifies as a displaced person is entitled to payment for his or her moving and related expenses as the agency determines to be reasonable and necessary. HUD has an extensive definition of displaced persons in HUD Handbook 1378. For the purposes of this program, displaced persons will generally be defined as any tenant in a voluntary or involuntary program, or homeowner in an involuntary program, who moves from the real property as a direct result of a written notice of intent to acquire, the initiation of negotiations for, or the acquisition of such real property in whole or in part for a project. See HUD Handbook 1378 for additional definitions that may apply. Please note, homeowners in voluntary buyout and acquisition programs are not typically considered displaced persons. Generally, the displaced person may choose a payment for actual reasonable moving and related expenses, or a fixed payment for moving expenses. A displaced person's actual, reasonable, and necessary moving expenses for moving personal property from a dwelling may be determined based on the cost of one or a combination of methods described at 49 CFR 24.301b, which will be described later with the completion of the form. A fixed payment for moving expenses shall be determined according to the applicable fixed residential moving cost schedule published by the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA. Copies of the schedule are available from the FHWA website. This form will assist tenants and involuntary homeowners in calculating and requesting reimbursement for moving and related expenses. Now let us begin to review the completion of the form. For this video, we will use an example of a fictional claimant and location to give a sample of how to complete the form. Once opened in a PDF reader, tenants and subrecipients will be able to enter and edit data onto the document. For the purpose of this video, eligible tenants and involuntary buyout and acquisition homeowners will be known as the claimants. The form is completed in a phased approach. First, the claimant enters all information and provides backup documentation for their request. Subrecipients should provide assistance as needed to the claimant to complete this form. Then in the second phase, the subrecipient confirms the information and determines the eligible amount. Now let us begin to review each section of the residential claim for moving and related expenses. In the first phase, tenants and involuntary homeowners will input all claim information and attach backup documentation to request moving and related expenses. Skipping to question number 1, the claimant will begin by inputting their name and the present mailing address, then the current phone number. Question number 2 asks if all members have moved to the same dwelling. Claimants should answer yes or no. If the claimant selects no, that the household members did not all move to the same dwelling, in the remarks section at the end of page 3, they should list all names of the original household members and the addresses they moved to. Question number 3 asks for the address of the home of which the claimant is moving out of, the date the claimant originally moved into the unit, and the vacate date of the original unit. Then lastly, the number of rooms of furniture in the unit. Note the number of rooms of furniture does not include bathrooms, hallways, and closets. Question number 4 asks about the new replacement dwelling the claimant has moved to. They should input the address of the replacement dwelling and the move-in date of the replacement unit. In question 5, select yes or no to indicate is this a final claim. Question number 6 is a self-certification that the household members are residents of the United States. To qualify for moving and related expense payments, the claimant must be a United States citizen or national, or alien lawfully present in the United States. The claimant will sign to certify that they are certifying their legal residency in the United States. The certification must be completed in order to receive any relocation assistance. In order to certify, the claimant will sign the completed form. Claimant should see 49 CFR 24.208 G and H for hardship exceptions to the legal residency requirement. In number 6, the claimant will select only one category, 1 individual or 2 family. If individual, the individual should select if they are a citizen or alien lawfully present in the United States. If family, the claimant will enter the number of persons in the household, how many are citizens or nationals, and how many are aliens lawfully present in the United States. In our example, Sam Smith lives with his son, so there are 2 persons in the household, and both people are U.S. citizens. Number 7 is where the claimant will input expenses to compute the eligible payment. The claimant may be eligible to apply for either 1, a fixed payment, or 2, payment for actual and reasonable moving costs and related expenses, or 3, in some cases, a payment based on a combination of moving options. The computation table in this section provides the claimant with the ability to compute their payment based on one or a combination of moving options, depending on their eligibility, needs, and desires. First, if the claimant is going to claim actual costs for their move, they can input the total of their actual costs, which they must back up with receipts in row 1. If the items were moved commercially, they will place this information in 7A row 1, or if the items were moved in self-move, they will input the costs in 7B row 1. Eligible actual residential moving expenses that can be claimed include transportation of the displaced person and personal property. Transportation costs for a distance beyond 50 miles are not eligible unless the agency determines that relocation beyond 50 miles is justified. Packing, crating, unpacking, and uncrating of the personal property. Disconnecting, dismantling, removing, reassembling, and reinstalling relocated household appliances and other personal property. For businesses, farms, or nonprofit organizations, this includes machinery, equipment, substitute personal property, and connections to utilities available within the building. It also includes modifications to the personal property, including those mandated by federal, state, or local law, code or ordinance necessary to adapt it to the replacement structure, the replacement site, or the utilities at the replacement site, and modifications necessary to adapt the utilities at the replacement site to the personal property. Storage of the personal property for a period not to exceed 12 months unless the agency determines that a longer period is necessary. insurance for the replacement value of the property in connection with the move and necessary storage, the replacement value of property lost, stolen, or damaged in the process of moving, not through the fault or negligence of the displaced person, his or her agent or employee, where insurance covering such loss, theft, or damage is not reasonably available. Other moving-related expenses that are not listed as ineligible under Section 24.301H as the agency determines to be reasonable and necessary. Additional moving expenses that mobile homeowners may also be eligible for include the reasonable cost of disassembling, moving, and reassembling any appurtenances attached to a mobile home, such as porches, decks, skirting, and awnings, which were not acquired, anchoring of the unit, and utility hookup charges. The reasonable cost of repairs and/or modifications so that a mobile home can be moved and/or made decent, safe, and sanitary, and the cost of a non-refundable mobile home park entrance fee to the extent that it does not exceed the fee at a comparable mobile home park if the person is displaced from a mobile home park or the agency determines that payment of the fee is necessary to effect relocation. Or, if applicants will be claiming a fixed payment, they can input that information in 7C Row 3. A fixed payment is used to compute a payment based on the number of rooms of furniture within the displacement dwelling. The residential fixed moving cost schedule is available at the FHWA website at the link shown on the screen. The FHWA website will provide the payment amount for the state in which the displacement occurred. First, the claimant will select the number of rooms of furniture. Remember, bathrooms, hallways, and closets do not count towards rooms of furniture. Or if the claimant does not own any furniture that needs to be moved, for example, if they are renting a fully furnished house and the furniture is all the property of the homeowner, then the claimant can look at the occupant does not own furniture columns to determine their fixed costs. For our example, the dwelling that the homeowner is being displaced from has 5 rooms of furniture. They found the 5 rooms of furniture column and scrolled down to see the amount of 5 rooms for the state of Texas. They found that for 5 bedrooms, they are eligible for $1,400 in Texas on a fixed payment schedule. Note, if a room contains an unusually large amount of personal property, for example, a crowded basement, the subrecipient may increase the payment accordingly, such as counting it as 2 rooms instead of just 1. Or, on the other hand, for households occupying a dormitory-style room who also have minimal possessions, or where the move is performed by the subrecipient at no cost to the displaced person, the payment amount is limited to the amount specified for such moves on the fixed moving cost schedule, which is currently set at a $100 limit. In some cases, claimants who plan to claim a fixed payment may also be eligible for additional moving options to move personal property located outside the dwelling and not considered in the fixed moving cost schedule, such as jungle gym or hot tub, or for personal property requiring specialized moving assistance within the dwelling, such as a piano, pool table, or medical equipment. In these situations, the claimant may also be eligible for a payment based on actual costs for a commercial move and/or self-move for these items in addition to their fixed payment. If the subrecipient determines the claimant is eligible for other moving options in addition to the fixed payment, the applicant should fill in all applicable claim information requested for the types of moving option specified in the following table in 7A or 7B. For our example, the claimant decided to use a combination move where they used the fixed schedule, but they also claimed $200 for a commercial move for their piano since it required specialized and costly moving services. In number 7, row 2, The claimant can input any storage costs they have due to moving. Note the storage cost should not exceed 12 months. In number 7, row 4, claimants can input other expenses that don't fall under the eligible actual moving expenses listed earlier, and they should input information on the expense in the remarks section. In number 7, row 5, the claimant will add together the total amounts listed for their claim to the total requested amount. In number 7, row 6, the claimant will input the amount of funding previously received for moving expenses, if any. Then, number 7, row 8 will be completed only if the claimant is requesting a combination move of both actual and fixed costs. They will total the cost of both the actual and fixed costs. In number 8, claimants will complete the Certification by Claimant section. The claimant will certify that the claim and supporting information are true and complete and that they have not been paid for these expenses by any other source. They will also select who shall receive the claim, themselves or a contractor. The claimant will then sign and date the form. In the final remarks section on page 2, the claimant should input any information necessary to explain the claims requested. After receiving the claim form from the claimant, the subrecipient should use the form to complete the agency use only sections and determine the eligible reimbursement amounts. Beginning with the first 3 cells, where it says for agency use only, subrecipients should enter the subrecipient name in the name of the agency cell, the GLO contract number in the project name or number cell, and the Tiger project number assigned when the applicant is input into Tiger in the case number cell. Subrecipients should review the information in numbers 1 through 6 to ensure they are consistent with the other information that the subrecipient has on the claimant, and they are consistent with the claims being requested. In numbers 7.1 through 7.7, the subrecipient should input in the agency use columns their approved amount for each claim based off the receipts and documentation provided by the claimant. Note the amounts that the claimant input into the commercial move column should be based on the lower of 2 bids. Claimants should attach documentation of both bids and the actual invoice and proof of payment for the winning bid. In addition, the amount the claimant is requesting in the self-move columns in 7B should not exceed what the cost would have been with the commercial move. As you can see in our example, the subrecipient found a discrepancy in the receipts for the storage costs and what the claimant was requesting. They found only $195 in eligible storage costs, so their recommendation in the agency use section is $195. Then in the final to be completed by the agency section, the subrecipient will determine the amount eligible to the claimant and approve it through their approval process. The subrecipient should have the reviewer input the recommended amount, sign, print name, and enter the date. Then the approver will input the recommended amount, sign, print name, and enter date. If the subrecipient has any remarks about the review, they should include them in the remarks section. Finally, the subrecipient should provide their determination of the eligible amounts of the claimant. If the full claim amount of the claimant's claim is not approved, the subrecipient should provide a written explanation for the reason and explain to the claimant how they can appeal the determination if desired. We hope you enjoyed this training on the URA Residential Claim for Moving and Related Expenses form. If there are any additional questions during the completion of the form, subrecipients should reach out to their General Land Office grant manager. Additional videos covering the other required local buyout and acquisition forms are, or will soon be, available at the same location you are viewing this one.